Hey, good morning and welcome to Breakthrough Walls. I am Ken Walls and I'm your host, and I am very, very, very excited about who we have on today. So this is been a very well, it's been requested that I have this unbelievable special guest on, and I'm very excited to have her on today. My life wouldn't be the same without this person in it. And I just froze. Whoops. Whoa, froze there for a second. So I want to welcome my amazing, beautiful wife and business partner and partner in everything, Jill Walls, to the show. Jill, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to have you here. So, Jill kicked and screamed and fought and did not want to be on the show. And I said, "Hey, Megan DiMartino." And Mike Scott said, "Yes, this is awesome." Chuck Studebaker, excuse me. So, and everybody's saying good morning to you and not me. That's not cool. So I'm just kidding. So listen, I want everybody, because I brag to our clients, I brag to friends, I brag to everybody about how amazing my wife is, how brilliant she is when it comes to a lot of things. And I want to take this opportunity for everybody to get to know Jill. She's the brains behind the scenes. And today we have her on the show. So I'm pretty excited. So let's, Chuck Studebaker said, best Walls on the show. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
thanks.
So let's go ahead and get started and talk about Jill. Thank Ginger, we love you too. Hey Robert, how you doing? So listen, Jill, let's start with, as you know, you and I were talking about this show. What was it? Back in April, I think. And
Yeah, long time ago.
we were talking about, I started talking about, I wanted to do a show that I had signed up with Binge Networks TV, and there's so many comments. But I had signed up with Binge to have a channel on Binge Networks, and I'm like, I've got to come up with a show idea. I really want to do something. And I said, maybe if I can interview some people and talk about how they've had breakthroughs in life. And you said, you could call it Breakthrough Walls. I'm like, that's genius. So Jill came up with this show name, and I want you guys to see how blessed I am to have her in my business and in my life, and I'm very grateful. So Jill, why don't you start with telling everybody where you were born and raised?
Well, first of all, I want to say hi to everybody. I see you all the time. You just don't usually see me. Mike Scott, good morning. Chuck Studebaker, I have to say, Gwinnett County is really losing out not having you on their school board, but that just means greater things are ahead for you, sir. You are an amazing person. Megan DiMartino, Ginger, good morning to you beautiful ladies. It's great to have everybody on this morning. I'm thrilled to be here. Yes, I was kind of kicking and screaming because at this point in my career, early on, I was in front of the camera a lot. So now I am enjoying being behind the scenes and allowing Ken to be front and center because he is really dynamite at that. But I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. Both sets of my great grandparents came over from Germany and Hungary, respectively. One settled in Pittsburgh, one settled in Cleveland. So the Browns-Pittsburgh Steelers rivalry was real from the very beginning of life for me. But we moved to Erie, Pennsylvania when I was about one, and I spent until almost high school there. So that I went to Fairview And that is really a very special place for me. I grew up in the greatest neighborhood ever. There were kids everywhere, and it was very family oriented. We went to the beach every day. We had a sailboat, and I grew up sailing on Lake Erie. And it was just really the rainbows and unicorns childhood until my brother was 6 years old and he got a throat infection. And I can remember my parents came home from taking him to the doctor, and I was staying with a girlfriend of mine, and they sat me down and told me that he was diagnosed with leukemia. And at that point, kind of everything changed. And one thing that has followed me throughout my life and continues to be front and center for me is that positive mental attitude plays a role in so much in your life, not only in your success, but in your health. And my brother is now 45 years old today, and he has battled cancer on and off since he was 6 years old. And yet you talk to him and he's never down one day. He never questions. His faith is strong, and his resilience and his positive mental attitude has really positively impacted his health results as well. So, I come from a very, very tight family. My father taught me a very strong work ethic. My mother and father were a unit. And
hold it. I'm going to interrupt you. I want to talk about your work ethic a little bit. Because okay, so she is a lunatic when it comes to working, and I'm not saying that in a negative way. Like, there is nobody I have ever met in my life that will work as hard as the woman y'all are watching right now. Like, she is, and I mean that, like, there'll be times when, we're on a deadline with a client, or we have to, just something pressing has to be done. And I have watched her stay up until 5 or 6. A couple of times she's literally stayed up all night working on a project, not going to sleep, then going the entire next day, taking care of our little girl and being a wife and everything else. She is absolutely, the work ethic this woman has is second to nobody I've ever seen. So I just had to say that and give you props for that.
Well, thanks. Our clients deserve the very best. And so I want everything to be as great as it can be. And that means not rushing through it. It means doing whatever it takes to get it done right. So.
Yeah. You're incredible.
And I have to say, Elizabeth, I love you too. I got your message this morning. That woman is amazing. Elizabeth Perez Oliveri. Hello. Good morning. You're amazing. Thank you.
So continue. You were saying that, so your brother, who I agree is one of the most amazing people on planet Earth, like amazing. Like, the guy has been through literally every form of cancer just about that you can imagine, and so many different times I know the prognosis was not good. Like, it was not going to be good. But let's go back to when he was 6 and you were 11 years old and all of that. What happened at that point?
Well, we started treatments right away in Erie, Pennsylvania, and he relapsed a couple of times. And then my father was transferred to Ohio, where we live now. And so we went to Children's Hospital in Columbus, and they pretty much said there really wasn't anything that they could do, just kind of take him home and make him comfortable. And my mother, who is the strongest person that I know and is probably one of the most amazing women I know. If I'm half the mother that she is, I will be very lucky. She would not accept that. And so we found another hospital. We went to Cincinnati Children's and were under the care of an amazing medical team. And basically they said he needs a bone marrow transplant. And this is 1984. So bone marrow transplantation at that point was still very experimental. We had one of his first roommates in the hospital was 8 years old, and he had 3 siblings, and they tested them for him to have a bone marrow transplant, and none of the three of them were a match, and that little boy passed away. And that was very, very difficult for our entire family. But, I looked at my mom and dad and I said, don't worry, I'm a match. And the doctor said, well, there's like a 1 in 8 chance you're going to match, so don't get your hopes up. And I said, don't worry, I match. And so they took us through all of the tests. And sure enough, the doctor came back and said, you basically have identical twins 5 years apart, wow, which is unheard of. So wow. I donated my bone marrow. He had a bone marrow transplant and was cancer-free for 1 week shy of his cure date, which was almost 5 years later. And he relapsed in the central nervous system. And so his team from Cincinnati went to California. They had a big powwow out there to try to determine how best to treat him. And they came back and developed a protocol, and he was cancer-free for a number of years. It's only been in the last probably, I'd say maybe, gosh.
So wait. So you did the bone marrow transplant?
Yes.
And for those of you who don't know what that is, or what is entailed in that, Jill, maybe you could explain what they do to do the bone marrow transplant. You were 11 years old.
No, actually, at the time of the bone marrow transplant, I was 15.
Oh, you were 15.
And my brother was 10.
I got it. Okay.
And so what they do is they do about 400 aspirations out of the hip area and remove bone marrow from me, and then just take it he was in a bubble room because they literally had to destroy all of his bone marrow. And wow. They put it in almost like a blood bag, and it found its way to the bone marrow found its own way to where it needed to go. And so it took about 90 days for him to start to generate bone marrow from my new bone marrow in there. So it really is a truly fascinating process. And thankfully, he had been through so much at this point that that really it was an easier surgery for him at that point in that particular procedure than it was for me. But that's something that I would do 100 times over. Well, it's nothing.
And that's you call it aspirations into the hip area, but that's literally they drill into your hips.
Well, they put a thick needle in and they draw the bone marrow out.
Right.
And they need a dense flat area, so that's why they use the hip area.
Right. Which is a very, very, very painful procedure for the donor.
Yeah, but the pain lasts just a little bit. In the grand scheme of things, it's a cakewalk.
Right. I understand. So you did this, and you were living in Ohio at that point, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We lived, my mom and my brother lived in the Ronald McDonald House for about 90 days, and my dad and I went back and forth from Marion during that time. So you grew up, and I of course I know your parents, and you had, outside of that, I mean, you had a pretty amazing childhood. What are some of the things that you did as a child that for some of the things that you did, the extracurricular activities and all of that? Well, my dad never had the opportunity to race soapbox derby cars, and he was a big car guy. So when I was old enough, when I was 10, he and I built a soapbox derby car out of wood. And we raced it in our local race in Erie, Pennsylvania. And I got second place. No, I think I got third place my first year. And so we stripped it down, and we redid the whole thing and refinished it and worked side by side. And the next year we were neck and neck, and I got second place. So I didn't get to go to Akron. another kid that I raced with got to go to Akron, but I won a TV and trophies and all kinds of, scholarships and things, which was really cool. But we weren't done. My dad's like, we're not done. We want to do more of this. So we literally strapped the Soapbox Derby car onto the roof of our yellow Volvo station wagon, and we drove over to Fort Wayne, Indiana, because in Soapbox Derby racing there is the race, your local races, which go to Akron, but then there's another type of racing that's called National Derby Rallies. And so you can go around the country and race at these different Soapbox Derby races and qualify for nationals. Right. So our goal was to qualify for nationals. So we went over to Fort Wayne, Indiana, where my great aunt and uncle lived. And we raced, and I'll never forget, I had a fever and I had a sore throat the night before. And the next morning I got up and we raced in Fort Wayne and I qualified for nationals.
Wow.
So a couple months later, again, we strapped the car to the top of the roof of the station wagon and we drove to Chattanooga, Tennessee. And we were racing against 96 other kids in my division. And we spent a week there and we were in a parade and they treated us like royalty, like rock stars. And I'll never forget my last race. I was pretty small. I was a thin kid growing up. And at the last race, I couldn't make weight. And so we're throwing in lead and we're throwing in my dad's change purse and everything we could find to throw in the car to be able to make weight. And we were racing in the dark and they had street lights. And so I raced my last run for seventh versus eighth place. And the kid I was racing against was a boy. And he looked at me and he said, "You are never going to beat me. You're a girl." And I looked at him and I said, "You just watch me." And I kicked his butt. And I ended up getting 7th place at nationals out of 96 cars. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. One thing about my family is we do everything together. It is never about one of us. It's always about all of us. And I think that kind of leads into our work environment, right? And when we're working, whether it's in corporate America where I spent 18 years or a company like you and I working together, it can't be about one person. Everybody has different gifts and talents. Everybody has something different that they bring to the party. And it's really about working as a team to get the maximum benefit and to get the maximum support and to do your best. And that really was something that was instilled in me in a very, very young age.
So you won 7th place?
I did, yeah.
7th place at nationals in the Soapbox Derby, which is unbelievable. We still have that Soapbox Derby car in the garage. We've toted it around here and there.
We have no idea what to do with it.
I know. We need to put the wheels on it and probably put Abigail in it or something.
Yeah, right.
But so we, you did that and you went to high school in Marion, Ohio, Pleasant High School. Yes. And graduated from there, and Mike Scott says, "What did your parents do for a living?" You can go ahead and tell him that.
Well, my dad worked at GTE. It was GTE then, and he was in charge of all the buildings and fleet in the Midwest area for Ohio and Pennsylvania. So my mom actually stayed at home with us, and she was my brother's primary caregiver. And actually an interesting note is that my brother also raced Soapbox Derby cars. My parents' goal was to keep our lives as normal and as functioning normally as possible in the wake of his illness. And they really did a great job of setting an amazing example for tenacity and strength and togetherness. And, we're really a unit. And he actually ended up going to Akron not once but twice with his Soapbox Derby car. So he did even better than I did. I told him that my dad and I building my cars gave him all the experience so that by the time they got to his, they had it down to a science.
Right.
So, but my mother actually ended up going to nursing school when I was in high school and my brother was in junior high because she had spent so many years taking care of my brother when he was ill that she really had a calling to become a nurse. And so she graduated and they actually voted her speaker of her class when she got her RN when I was in college. So that was pretty amazing too.
So you, I mean, you grew up in what I used to say kind of the Father Knows Best TV show, or the Leave It to Beaver kind of like just and your mother who stepped off of the right hand of God into this world, like she is always happy, always so just caring, giving, loving, happy, like really genuinely happy most of the time. Like it's insane. Like so, and I love that about you and your family. So when you so you graduated from high school.
Mm-hmm.
You were you were a cheerleader in high school, right?
Yep.
Yeah. You went to college.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to Ohio Northern University in Ada, Ohio, which nobody will know except the fact that Wilson footballs are made there. So all the NFL footballs are made in Ada, Ohio, and that is where I went to college.
Right.
Real small university, very, I don't want to say sheltered, but kind of, which was great. It's a private university, Methodist oriented. And I just absolutely got not only a great education there, but I had a great experience there. And you know, I actually am doing in my career what I went to school for. But I had not only some great, professors there that taught me great principles. I had some really great opportunities to do some amazing internships, and that's really what set the stage for me being able to get good jobs after college.
So you went through college, you went to, and what was what did you study in college? What was?
I studied marketing, I studied communications, public relations, and I double majored in French. And I double majored in French because my very first French teacher in high school, her name was Rebecca Brown, and she was probably the most amazing teacher I've ever had in my life. She said on the first day of French class in high school, if you say one word of English in this class, you will fail. If you need to say something or you need help, raise your hand and I will help you. And it was all oral, like the first 8 months of class. And I was so well prepared that by the time I got to college, I got to go to France with her and spend some time there and see amazing history. My parents made that opportunity available for me, which I know was not easy for them in the wake of all the medical bills, but they did it.
Right.
And I went to college. I tested out of the first 2 years of college French. So I majored in it, and my last 2 years were independent study. And it was great because I got out of college and I was able to do a little bit of a side hustle where I was hired by companies to do French translation. And I got to travel and do some things for some companies that I would not have been able to do had I not had that great teacher in French.
So I want to also stop for a second and thank everybody on Facebook who's been sharing this out. Like I keep seeing all these notifications of Elizabeth, all kinds of people.
I know. Hi, Sandy McNichol.
So thank you guys, all of you, for sharing this. That's amazing. So Jill, you went to you got out of college and you went to work for what was it you started doing out of college?
Well, actually, my first job out of college is kind of funny. I I didn't have a job right when I graduated. So a friend of mine from high school was working at the Columbus Zoo. So my first job out of college was giving camel rides at the Columbus Zoo. And I didn't do that for long because I ended up getting a great job. We had started a Public Relations Society of America chapter at my university, and I was one of the officers. And the Columbus chapter kind of glommed us in with all of their graduates and put us in a resume pool. And I got a call from a gentleman who owned a pet food and supply retail chain. And I went down and I interviewed to be their advertising and marketing person. And I got the job. And my first day on the job, I went up and helped open a store in the Cleveland area in Willowick. And I worked for that company for 3.5 years, and I did everything from cleaning up dog poop in aisle 3 to doing huge grand openings and designing newspaper ads, writing radio scripts, doing television commercials. I really was immersed in the marketing and advertising world very quickly. And the key to my success was surrounding myself with great mentors. I found some amazing people that helped me along the way, that really gave me some amazing guidance. And I already had the work ethic from when I was a kid. Being irresponsible, I didn't drink or I say I'm the squarest person ever because I never did drugs. I never drank alcohol. I never partied. Being irresponsible growing up for me was not an option. Our family unit just would not have settled for that. And we had so much going on, and we were so grateful for what we had that the thought of embarrassing my parents or letting them down in any way just was never an option for me. So by the time I got out of college and found these, I really believe God sent them. I had these amazing mentors. They really set the stage for me to accomplish amazing things in my career.
So you started with this pet food company, and you were in the pet industry for quite a while, right?
Yeah, I actually stayed with them for about 3.5 years, and they ended up being bought out by PetSmart. So when I joined there, on my first day, we opened store 6. And by the time I left there, we were close to 30 stores.
Wow.
So retail is an amazing place to start because that is a pace. You know, marketing is a process. It doesn't really matter what you're marketing. The process is, and I'm very much a structure and process and systems person. So what fascinates me is the strategy and the systems and processes behind the vehicle that is marketing whatever you're trying to sell. And so what I love about retail is that is a pace, man, and you can either hang or you can't. And if you know very quickly, and you learn very quickly how to not only survive in that environment, but to thrive.
Well, and I want to say something. Hey, Richard Trevino. Richard said, OMG, this is the best guest of all time. Yeah.
Thanks, Richard.
So, we love Richard. So he said true powerhouse right here. Why didn't he put powerhouses? Anyway, so no, I'm kidding. But like, you know, I got to say this, like, again, back to what you just said about retail, and I've never been in retail, nor will I ever be, because I've seen enough of it to go, yeah, no. But we have a client that was doing a huge grand opening. I'm going to fast forward a little bit and then we'll go back. But Jill was pregnant with our daughter. I mean, like, to the point of getting ready to pop pregnant. Like, she was pregnant. Like, it was go time. And it all happened to fall right around the time of this grand opening of our client that Jill had done all of the marketing prep for, all of the TV interviews, all of the marketing, everything, the PR, everything. and they were having their grand opening. It was 2 days or 3 days.
3 days before. 3 days before I had it.
So before Jill had our little one, Jill literally spent like 14 hours on her feet wearing heels, unbelievably pregnant, like really. I mean, she was due. And she spent like 12 or 14 hours on her feet in heels at this grand opening and did not stop. There were TV crews there, radio people there. It's a huge company. And so, but that's what I'm talking about when it comes to, this is about breaking through. This show is about breaking through. And there are people that complain about this or that, or they can't get this done, or they can't do, and I'm telling you, this woman right here that y'all are looking at, my significant other, my best half, the brain, like Sandy McNichol just said, she's the brains behind the walls. Like, she really is, and she has a work ethic that is ridiculous. Like, I was worried about the baby and she was worried about making sure that our client was taken care of, and that's just incredible. So but let's go back to, you were in the pet food industry.
Yeah.
You opened up it sounds like at least 24 stores while you were there in 3.5 years. Were those franchises, or were they?
No,
corporate?
they were all corporate stores. So we did everything internally.
Okay.
And it was pretty much me and a couple people that I hired.
Right.
Which was, the couple that owned this company put a tremendous amount of faith in me, to which for them I will be eternally grateful. To give that level of responsibility to a kid right out of college was kind of crazy, probably. But I was in there. I didn't have a key to the office, but I would go in at 6 a.m. when the truck drivers were going in, so that they could let me in, because our warehouse was right behind the office. So I'd go in at 6 a.m. and I would stay as long as I needed to, because I knew that I didn't know what I didn't know. So I had to surround myself with, and Johnny said this the other day, Johnny Wimbury, he said, you got to surround yourself with people that are better brains than you, right? So that you can continue to get better. I knew I didn't know what I didn't know, so I knew I had to work harder to get there.
Is that why you surrounded yourself with me?
Yeah, right. Yes. Sure. Yep.
I'm just kidding.
Absolutely, 100%.
Oh, come on. You're way smarter than me. But so you did that for a while, and then what when you left there, you said you were there for 3.5 years. What was next?
Well, I went to an advertising agency.
Now, hold it. Were you single this whole time?
No, actually I was not. I married my college sweetheart about a year and a half after college. And, he had proposed to me when we were still in college. And I said, no. I said, I love you dearly, but I got to have something for myself first before I have something to give to somebody else. And I want to be on my own for at least the first year after college, so that I can begin to build my career and be comfortable in my own skin before I share my life with somebody else. So I ended up, we got married about a year and a half after college. We broke up for a while, which was actually good, but we got back together and we got married, and it just wasn't a good fit. His goals for his life and the direction his life was taking him was in the opposite direction from me, literally. So we parted ways, and I was 28 when I was single again, and I spent a really long time being single. Actually, I never planned on getting married again.
That is a true story.
It's interesting. Yes.
When I met Jill, she had a big log home out on a bunch of acreage, and one of those. I told her, I said, when I first pulled into your house, I was like, some like 39 or 40-year-old woman lives here, and I was looking for the little goose, the cement goose with the bonnet on the front porch,
So
and
rude.
she didn't have one.
No. No, I did though have a carved bear
You
in
did.
front of my log home that was
Yeah,
waving.
yeah. So you and I know that you ended up going to you went to another company,
Yeah.
and you became the global vice president of marketing, right?
Right, right.
Or was that
I
before, was that, or was it the fair? I don't remember which.
Well, actually, I went to the advertising agency because I really knew I was very strategic about my career. And I knew that I wanted to try different areas of the marketing field to see what would be the best fit for me and also position me well for my next promotion, right? And unfortunately, you've got to kind of jump around in your career. So I really, I really liked working for other people. I was never this person that was like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I can't work for somebody else. That was never my mentality. So I was always looking for where I could add value, but I could also gain new experience and new skill sets that would position me for the next jump in my career. So I was always very strategic about it. So I spent about a year in an advertising agency, and that advertising agency ended up moving to Dallas. And one of my clients was the Ohio State Fair. And they asked me to come on board and be their marketing and public relations director because both their marketing person and their PR person were kind of leaving at the same time. So I ended up going there when I was 24. And I spent 7 years there. And I always tell everybody, I am a big proponent of agriculture. I'm passionate about horses. Ohio is a big farm state. I love the fair industry. I love the people in the fair industry. That is the only job I have ever missed. And really the only job that has really ever tugged at my heartstrings, because I just believe in it, and I believe in agriculture, and that is the basis for the fair industry, and I believe that's the root of commerce and is agriculture. So I spent 7 years there, and I absolutely loved it.
So you were there for 7 years?
Yeah, 7 years.
Oh, I thought it was 8. I knew it was 7 or 8, but
yeah.
So you were there. You were the director of marketing, and I got to tell you guys that I see the people in the fair industry are constantly reaching out to Jill asking for help. And I'm talking about ginormous fairs across the United States from every state in the country. And for example, the last 2 years, Jill has played a very large part in the marketing for the Florida State Fair. You did all of the PR and a lot of the marketing for the Florida State
I did all
Fair.
the social
media and PR, right?
Well, I did PR on site. Like I worked with the media a little bit on site, but my primary role was all of the social media promotions, contests, all of that.
Right. So they flew Jill down. She was at the Florida State Fair for way too long. It was like me and Abigail here at the house for, I don't even know, what was it, 12 days or something?
Yeah, pretty
ridiculous.
Close. Yep.
And so she was down there, and on TV she was you went out to the various markets, and you were on TV promoting the Florida State Fair. Mike Scott said you need to help the California State Fair.
I would love to do that.
Yeah. She loves the fair business.
I love the fair industry. Yeah.
So, Brian Hess is funny.
Hi,
love Brian. He's such a good dude. Walls and walls and walls and walls. So, and I know that, so you ran the Ohio State Fair's marketing department for 7 years. You left there and you went back into the pet industry, I believe.
Right.
And
I had a tremendous opportunity. I was the vice president of merchandising and marketing for Petland International, which had about 250 stores at the time, but they were both they were based in the United States, and we also had stores in Europe and also in South America, literally worldwide. So I really had a tremendous opportunity to travel the world and help set up distribution networks and recruit franchisees internationally. I did some translation for our French franchisees. So that was really a fantastic opportunity. The gentleman that started Petland was an absolutely dynamite guy. I mean, just salt of the earth, great values. The problem is in a franchise environment, the key to life there is compliance. And you either have a strong compliance program and have a strong franchise system, or you have what I call a consortium of independent operators. And that's what, in my opinion, Petland became. And so when you don't have the strict compliance of buying from certain vendors and keeping that real tight, then things change.
right.
And so as things began to change, I got contacted for another opportunity for another big retail chain. And I ended up moving to Cleveland and became vice president of marketing for Dots. And they were women's fashion. So it was size 0 to 20, fast fashion. They had 450 stores. So I've been very grateful for every position I've held, because it's really positioned me to continue to grow and move and expand, right? So I spent about a year and a half there and opened up stores all over the country, did some amazing things with some amazing people. And then they actually ended up selling to a venture capital company to grow and expand in another direction, which since they don't exist anymore, which is incredibly unfortunate, because the gentleman that started that business, what a great success story. He started selling jeans out of the back of his van and grew his company to 450 stores nationwide.
And they were doing over $500 million.
Yeah, it was a huge company, and the family was all involved in the business. They all played significant roles, and they were really why the company had grown to where it was.
Yeah.
And they had built this amazing company, and then they were sold to an outside entity, and that's when things changed. So after that, I decided I'd kind of done lots of different facets of the business, and I was going to go out on my own. And I had some clients, and one of my clients needed a website, and actually I got involved in this with this client because I was showing horses at the time. I'm passionate about horses, and I ride dressage, and I had a couple of show.
Hey, just so you all know, she's not lying. She's very, very, very passionate about horses.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna.
So I was training and riding and showing, and so I got hooked up with this client through somebody I knew through showing horses, and he needed a website. And that's how I met this one.
She said this one.
Yeah. Well, we met, and a friend of another mutual brought him over and said, "Hey, this guy does websites." And so we met with them and for about an hour, and he's like, "Yeah, I do websites." And so he left, and I said, "We cannot work with this guy. He's our competition." And she said, "No, he really doesn't do marketing. He does more technology and web stuff." And so we kind of worked it out, and
let me tell him how we worked it out.
Well, he agreed to do the website for my client if I would have dinner with him.
Yes, if and at a significantly discounted rate.
Right.
So I said, hey, I know how you can get a discount on this website. And she said, how? And I said, go to dinner with me. And so she agreed because it was a very significant discount. So we went to dinner and we had a great dinner. And
Best first date ever.
huh?
Best first date ever.
It really was. It was a great time. And I literally thought that I had found my sugar mama. I was like, yes. I mean, this chick's got, when I met her for the first time, I pull into her driveway and she's getting off of her John Deere tractor wearing Daisy Duke shorts.
Don't
And
tell
this,
people that.
well, you were. I was like, this is unbelievable. She's mowing her yard on her John Deere tractor. I was like, I'm in love. So, and look, it was, we have both Jill and I have we both have
Ginger.
our strong suits. What?
Ginger, sleeping with the enemy.
That's right. We have our strong suits, and one of mine is I'm good at collecting money when people owe us money, and Jill not so much. And so there was a thing with this company that you were doing all this work for, that the dude wouldn't pay you. I may have threatened him. I'm not sure if I.
Well, you have to stop for a minute, because after you did that website for my client, we teamed up and started working together.
That's right. Yep.
And so that's how that all kind of came to pass, is that, you do the technology and sales and I'm strategy and creative.
That's
so
right.
We kind of decided, why have two separate agencies when we could kind of team up
Right.
and be full service?
Right.
So that's where we joined forces.
That's right. And we've done, I mean, a lot of people think all we do are websites, and that's so far from what we do. I mean, we do websites, and Jill is unbelievably creative at these things. But we do a lot more than that. We do full-blown marketing campaigns. We do social media stuff and social media training, and so I mean, we do all kinds of stuff. And Jill is behind a lot of the creative processes with that. And like she's brought so much to the table. And I'm just going to say this: like, we got a phone call one time from a humongous company here. I mean, huge, multi-billion-dollar company here in Columbus, and they wanted her to do a study. I don't even remember what it was. I remember they sent this thick book of all these charts of patterns that people walk through their facility. You know what I'm talking about, right? COSI.
Yeah.
And they wanted you to do some kind of a marketing study to help them place machines in the right places.
Well, that's what
something.
I did a number of things for them. Yeah. That was actually one of my first clients.
It was like way beyond what I understood. I mean, way beyond what I understood. So, I want to, I kind of want to give you some massive props, because you get marketing like nobody I've ever seen, and we're almost at the end of the hour already. Geez. We're only 49. We're 49 minutes in. So I want to kind of wrap up here pretty soon. And I want to ask you a couple of questions, because,
okay.
You've dealt with companies that are $500 million companies that you ran the marketing departments for, with huge teams of people working for you and with you, and dealt with outside agencies that you've brought in to help with some of those marketing elements. And, you've seen, for the last 9-10 years that we've been together, working together, we've seen literally everything, I think, that is possible when it comes to companies, as far as huge companies we've worked with and still do work with, to the smaller companies. Thank you, Sandy McNichol.
Thanks, Sandy.
That's awesome. My brother Doug is on here. Your
Hi,
brother-in-law. So you've seen the ups and the downs of these companies. what and the people in them, what do you think, in your opinion, is the number one thing that stops people and companies from getting through getting unstuck, getting through the muck from true success in their business or their lives? What do you think the number one thing is?
Well, honestly, I think it's hard for people to be objective about their own brand, right? You're so immersed in what you're doing every day that a lot of times I really believe you need an outside objective eye to be able to give you an honest assessment of the situation. And one of the things that I really am very grateful for is that I have and always have had the ability to be able to help a company see either a missed opportunity or a new opportunity. And because sometimes there's things that you're just so busy doing the day to day that you don't think about, oh, what about this over here? Or what? So I sometimes think you just need an objective outside eye to give you an honest assessment and say, not that you're doing anything wrong, but what about this? So that phrase, what about this, is a big deal for me. And the other thing is there are three, I call it my litmus test. Whether I'm designing a website, I'm putting together a marketing plan, or I'm getting ready to do an interview with a big media outlet on camera. There's a litmus test, and it's three components. Number one is think from the end, right? It doesn't really matter what you think. You have to look at it from the prospect, the customer, the viewer, whoever's watching, somebody who's going to be reading what you've written. Think from the end. How is your message going to be received? How do you want it to be received? The second component to that is the meat is in the message. So, for example, what do you want people to know about you, your company, and then what do you want them to do? How do you want them to act? Do you want them to pick up the phone? Do you want them to fill out a form? Do you want them to schedule an appointment? The meat is in the message, right? So be succinct and be concise, but make a connection. And then the third component to that is strategy drives creative. And so you can be creative and do all these really impressive things, but if at the end of the day, the strategy behind it isn't getting you to your end goal, then you've missed the mark. There are a lot of agencies out there that are doing beautiful work, but you look at the end of the commercial or the end of the video and you think, well, what was that about? What am I supposed to do now? So strategy has to drive creative. So those three components are really the litmus test. Think from the end, the meat is in the message, and strategy drives creative.
And I'm going to tell you, I mean, Jill is, when I met her, I mean, her last position, her last company prior to, right before I met you, she was on track to do, $250,000 a year in salary and bonuses, and it was that's why I thought I'd met my sugar mama. but I mean, you've been recruited over and over and over. So many headhunters come after you all the time trying to get you to come and run their marketing departments because of your experience and your knowledge and your know-how. And you've stuck it out in this thing that we decided to do together years ago, and it's not been easy.
It hasn't.
It's been a battle where, a couple $100,000 a year salary coming in would definitely have made a difference. But we've, talked and decided that it would be better for us and our clients if we just keep our heads down and keep pushing forward and plow through it. So at some point, though, after we met, Was there anything just absolutely spectacular that happened for your life?
Yeah. Well, we had Abigail. And
Who's
I have
Abigail?
to
Does
admit,
anybody know her?
in full disclosure, I am not a natural entrepreneur. That is definitely Ken's. He's a natural entrepreneur. I am not. And so I always tell people, everybody says, "Oh, you're so lucky you work for yourself and you can work whenever you want." And I tell people, number one, never underestimate the value of a consistent paycheck, because there is that. And there's nothing wrong with working for somebody else. But at the same time, I tell people I've never worked harder at any job than I do at this one. Never. Right. But I also never have seen the benefits and rewards and relationships and all the great things that have come from being an entrepreneur. So even though I'm not a natural entrepreneur, I'm a learned entrepreneur. And now I wouldn't go back for anything, because the people that I've met and the clients that we get to do business with, all of you that are on here today, that I see on social media, that follow us and support us, and we've really built and are part of an amazing community of people that we learn from, and all of you help make us better every day. So that's been worth every hard moment.
Yep, I totally agree with that. So we back to Abigail.
Yeah. Yeah, we had Abigail, and I was that business person on the plane that whenever I would see a baby on the plane, I was totally annoyed, right? And so I never had any plans of having a child. That just wasn't, I was a career girl, right? So along comes, surprise, Abigail. And I always say she's the greatest gift I never knew I wanted. But I did always say that when you have a child, you don't really count anymore. It is all about her. And I knew that if I ever did have a child, I wanted to raise her. I did not want anyone else raising her. So, Ken, even though it was a struggle at times of him getting me to be a learned entrepreneur, it has been an absolute blessing to be able to be home with her and raise her. And it doesn't matter if I get 1 hour of sleep, as long as I'm there and present and able to be the mom that I want to be for her. That is my number one job, and I take that incredibly seriously, and it is my number one priority. So, and she's amazing.
She is, and you are an incredible mother. You're an incredible partner most of the time. I'm kidding.
That's fair.
Look, it's not easy being a husband and wife team. It's, we lock horns a lot, and
yes, we do.
And you came from corporate America, and you've sat at these billion-dollar boardroom tables and ran the show, and I've never sat at a billion-dollar company or even a $500 million company's boardroom table, and so you're a very, very strong woman, and you're very set in your ways, and being an entrepreneur, you have to have flexibility. Like you have to be flexible.
Right.
And that's been a point of contention at times, I would say, right?
Yeah. And I always, in full disclosure, I always say you're way nicer than I am, because for me, I don't have to be best friends with everybody I work with, but my job is to do great work.
Yeah.
And so, I'm a systems and processes person. I'm a planner, and you're more, you're more fluid and you're more spontaneous. And so I also think that's what makes it work, because we help each other in each of those areas, and we each have our strong points. So, I know that there's still a lot more growing to do. And that's the exciting part is that, We're always pushed to do more and learn more and try more. That not only makes us better as business people, it makes us better as people, right?
Yep.
So I'm very grateful for that. But I gotta say to Mike Scott, yes, there's always a CTA and call to action. And in that the meat is in the message. Understanding that whatever that message is, telling people who you are and what you do, whether it's you or your company, and then giving them something to do next, right? So I say it's a two-part issue with the meat is in the message. You got to educate and then you got to motivate. So motivate them to act. So thank you for bringing that up. If I wasn't clear, I wanted to clear that up for sure.
So with we're at the end of the hour, so I want to wrap this up. But if the person that and it's been a battle for us. I mean, it really has been a battle for us to get to where we are today. And I don't think people understand how much of a battle. I mean, we've lost cars, houses, we've given up so many things to continue to build our business and reinvest in it and get to a different level. We're both of us are avid learners and readers and we're constantly pushing to get to the next level, and we push each other, and sometimes we piss each other off.
Yep.
Right?
It's all part of it.
It's all part of it. But what's the, to the person, and I ask this of every guest.
Right.
You already know this question, but I'm going to say it anyway. To the person who's struggling right now, who is, maybe their electric's getting ready to be shut off, or they can't feed their kids, or they don't know, maybe they have a car that's been repossessed, or that it's going to be repossessed, or they're in foreclosure, or whatever the case may be. They're struggling and they can't figure it out. What would you say to that person if they reached out to you today one-on-one and told you this big, long sob story about how bad it is? What would you say to that person to help them get over the mental block, the hump?
Well, I would say two things. First, you've got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe that you can do it. Johnny Wimbrey, who you had on the show the other day, said it beautifully. Stuff happens to everybody. Nobody is immune. Just because you make a lot of money, just because you have a huge following, does not make you immune. People get sick. Bad stuff happens. Life happens to everybody. We all put our pants on the same way. And so we all share a commonality of sometimes things go great and sometimes things are really hard. But you've got to believe. You've got to believe that you can do it. You've got to believe that you're capable. You've got to believe that good things are coming. You've got to believe that if you do the next right thing, good things are coming. But you also have to be willing to work hard. And if that means you've got to go out and get a job at night while you're trying to get your gig going, then that's what you've got to do. Whatever it takes. Grant Cardone says this. You got to do whatever it takes. And so you just take it one day at a time, though. The marathon isn't run in 1 minute. You're going to have, you have good times, but things are going to turn around. And there's one thing actually that I read this morning that I think is so pertinent today that I want to share with everybody. And it's by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And it says, what we work for is what we become. Finding strength in the struggle, joy in the grind, excitement in the challenge. Always recognizing that the project of you is never finished because there is always more work to do. And I think that says it right there. You got to work hard, you got to believe, and you got to keep going and do the next right thing. Because as long as you do that, good things are coming.
Wow. So there you guys have it. That's my wife. There is Jill Rainey Walls, my wife, my business partner, and partner in everything in life. So Jill, thank you. I know you did not really want to be on the show, but a couple of people have been for a while now saying you need to have Jill on. So I have now officially interviewed my amazing wife. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you getting on here and sharing your wisdom, because you've got a lot of it. And
thank you to everybody who's on the stream, who shared the stream, who continues to follow Ken, follow us, and continue to support us. All of you make us better every day, and we are so grateful for the great community that we have online through Facebook and all of social media. You know, we've been doing this a long time, and it always amazes me how much I feel a close connection with all of you, because it just continues to grow and evolve, and we appreciate all of you. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, listen, that's a wrap. Thank you, guys. Appreciate all of you. Jill, thank you for coming on the show and sharing with everybody. If you guys want to follow Jill, send her a friend request on Facebook. And she's on LinkedIn and Instagram. We're working on getting her to use Instagram a little more. But make sure you go follow her. And Melissa Burrow, welcome. Yes, please go watch the replay. My wife shares some amazing marketing tips and a lot of wisdom. So thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks. Love you too. Hi, Jerry.
Who?
Jerry Acuff.
Oh, Jerry Acuff. Hey, Jerry. All right, listen, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much. You all have a wonderful day. Thank you, Jill, again. I appreciate it.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
All righty.